my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you 2 4th of July decor DIYs. If you're new to crafting, these DIYs are going to be perfect for you because they only require a few materials and are super easy to make. The first DIY I'll be showing you are 4th of July lanterns, and the second one are 4th of July themed wooden blocks. If you guys want to see how I created these, then please keep watching. The first DIY is the lanterns, and I'll be using these glass jars, some jute, Mod Podge, small American flags, a sponge paintbrush, battery operated tea lights, and some scissors. I'm first starting out by taking the poles off of the flag, and then I'm going to be cutting off the part where the pole was inserted so that my flag will lay better on my glass. When you're cutting your flag, you want to cut as close to the seam as you possibly can. You don't want to cut half of the stars off because your flag won't look right. Now I'm removing the lids to my jars because I will not be using them for this project. And then I'm going to be painting on a thin layer of Mod Podge with my sponge paintbrush on the back side of my flag, and then I'll be placing it on the side of my glass jar. You want to make sure that you're getting the Mod Podge on the very edges of the flag so that your edges don't pop off once you place them on the glass. Now that I have my Mod Podge applied to my flag, I'm going to be placing it on the side of the glass jar and then rubbing out any bubbles with my fingers. This size flag would work well with a little bit larger of a jar, but these jars are ones that I already had at home, and I just figured I would go ahead and use them for this project. Now I'm painting Mod Podge to my second flag the same as I did the first one. I'm applying it with my sponge brush all over the back of the flag and concentrating on the edges so that my edges don't pop up off of the glass. And again, applying my flag to my glass jar and then pushing out any bubbles with my fingers. After my Mod Podge has dried, I'm now taking another layer of Mod Podge and I'm painting it with my sponge paintbrush on top of the flag. And if you get any excess Mod Podge on your glass, you can just take a wet paper towel like I'm going to be doing here in just a second and wiping off any that's on the glass jar. And if it does dry, you don't have to worry about it because you can just take some nail polish remover to get that off. It works great. And I'm doing that same step here on the second jar. Now I'm going to be using some jute to wrap around the tops of my jars. I'm cutting off a long piece and then wrapping it around the tops of the jars 2 to 3 times before I tie it off and then cut off the excess jute pieces. The last step is to take your tea lights and just place them in the bottom of the jars. If you are using real candles, I would probably put some sand or something on the bottom of the jar if it has a bump so that your candle will stay even. Moving into DIY number 2, I'll be using these wooden blocks and stars from Hobby Lobby, some jute, a paintbrush, my hot glue gun, sandpaper, and I'll also be using some of this chalkboard paint from Martha Stewart in the color Ink, the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color Ivory and Truffle. I'll also be using the Folk Art chalk paint in the color Tuscan Red. To start out, I'm going to be taking this Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color Truffle, and I'm painting all of my wooden blocks in this color on all sides. I wanted my blocks to have a rustic look to them, so I'm doing a layered paint effect. That's why I'm painting this brown on first before I paint the other colors over top. While my blocks are drying, I'm going to be painting the 3 small stars that are in this pack with red, white, and blue. I'm going to be using that Martha Stewart chalkboard paint in the color Ink. I didn't realize that this was chalkboard paint. I thought it was chalk paint, and I got home and realized it was the chalkboard paint, but I decided to use it anyway and it worked out fine. And then I'm painting the white color with the Waverly Inspirations chalk paint in the color Ivory. And the red I'm painting with the Folk Art chalk paint in the color Tuscan Red. But I'm going to be mixing in some of this Waverly Inspirations paint in the color Truffle because the red was a little bright and I wanted it to be more of a rustic red. Now that my brown color is all dry on my blocks, I'm going to be painting them in red, white, and blue. One of them I'm painting all in red, one I'm painting all in blue, and one I'm painting all in white. After my blocks have all dried in the red, white, and blue, I'm going to be taking this 120 grit sandpaper. You can use any grit sandpaper that you want. This is just one that I already have here at home. And I'm going to be sanding around the edges of the blocks and on the sides of the blocks. It's going to make that brown color that we painted in the beginning peek through, as well as some of that natural wood finish that the blocks originally were. And it's going to give your blocks a really nice rustic look. After I have my blocks all sanded, I'm now going to be adding on my red, white, and blue stars. And I'm going to be doing this with my hot glue gun by taking some hot glue, placing it on the back of the star, and then pressing it on the block. I'm going to be repeating this step on all of my blocks. I decided not to do the layered effect with the paint on my stars, but you could if you wanted to. Next, I'm going to be using this jute to wrap around each one of my blocks. I'm going to be taking the smallest amount of hot glue and then pressing down on the jute to attach it to the back of the block. And then I'm going to be wrapping the jute around 3 times before I tie off a bow in the very front of the star. Once I get my bow the way I want it to, I'm cutting off the excess jute. And then I'm repeating this step for each one of my blocks. And that is it for this DIY. What I love about these blocks is you can switch them up by stacking them in a bunch of different ways. If you guys like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you would subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can be notified of my future videos. And let me know what kind of videos you want to see from me next and how you're spending your 4th of July this year. Thank you so much for watching.